Hello everyone and welcome back to Jira 8 Recipes. In section 4, we learn to create custom fields programmatically in Jira and modifying values as well as other recipes related to custom fields. As the name suggests in section 5, Programming Workflows, we will be learning to set up workflows, add conditions, and so on. Let's quickly discuss the topics that we will cover as part of this section. Jira Workflows enables us to transition issues from one state to the next as a part of the issue lifecycle. In this section, we will learn about adding conditions to control these workflows as well as validate them using validators. Then, we will learn to trigger workflows and edit a workflow after it has been activated. In the later part of this section, we will look at rearranging and reordering workflows and managing their permissions. So let's start with first video of this section, how to write a workflow condition. In this video, we will first learn about workflow conditions, then we learn to add them to workflow, and then to make it more complex, we learn to add in a group and then nest these conditions under the grouping conditions section. So let's begin. Now, before we start with our main topic of this video, workflow condition, let's quickly understand what is the workflow. So workflow is basically a different set of statuses that an issue goes through. And these different statuses can be defined by organization and based on the project needs. Now, when we create any project in Jira, it creates a default workflow which has been tied to all the issue types by default. However, we do have an option to create our custom workflow and assign to the project or even to a specific issue type. To view the current workflow that is associated with your project, you can just go to admin and from the admin section, go to the issues screen where under the workflows tab, we have all the workflows as well as their associated schemes. Now, if you click on any scheme here, let's say test workflow scheme, it takes us to the workflow scheme details screen where we can see as of now for this scheme, we have two workflows which are tied, and for this test workflow scheme, we have a specific issue type which is bug. So if we click on the diagram link here, we can see this bug issue type is going through the different statuses which is open, to do, in progress, testing, reopen, and done. Now remember, we do have an option to customize these different statuses as well as the transition that it goes through. We have an option to add our custom workflow by clicking on Add Workflow, and here we can give the name, let's say Test Workflow for Mobile App Project, and click on Add. And here, if you go to the diagram, we can add different statuses that an issue can go through. So let's click on Add. Now here you get an option either to select the existing status which is there in the drop-down, or you can add your custom issue and add it. So let's say we already have a open status. So we can say we want the next status to be assigned and click on Add. And let's say we want to add assign below open. We'll establish relation between these two statuses later on. Let's first add few more different statuses that we want our issue to go through. And for that, let's say ready for review. And let's say one more, review complete. And after review is completed, we can say ready to deploy in production, add it, create. And once it's deployed, we can say, okay, it's been closed. All right. So these are the different statuses that we have added as a part of this issue workflow. Now, let's establish a relation between these two different statuses. And for that, you can simply drag and drop. And here you can see we have add transition screen where we can say from open status to assigned, we are saying assigned to developer and click on add. Or we have other option which is add transition link here. So if you click on that, it will show us the same screen where we can select the status, the next one, which is, let's say, ready for review, worked, please review, and add it. And similarly, we can just go on and add different statuses. So let's do that quickly. All right. So we have added different statuses as well as the transitions. Now on this transition, let's say if we want to add more conditions, so for that we can select the transition. So if we click on conditions link here, it takes us to the condition screen where we can add our custom condition. And let's say we have all these existing condition and we want to make sure that user who has access to this project should be able to mark this issue as closed. So let's add that condition, and the role is, let's say, developer role, and click on add. All right, so we added the condition. We do have an option to add multiple conditions by clicking on add condition. So we'll keep one condition for this time, and let's leave the screen and go back to our main screen, refresh it. Now if you notice, after the refresh, we do have one condition which we just added. Our workflow status is still inactive. Now once we save this, we can go to the workflow scheme and click on add workflow scheme to our custom workflow, and then associate that scheme with our workflow. So for that, click on edit. I'm using the existing one, and click on add workflow, add existing, and the one which we have just added, which is test workflow for mobile app, click on next and select the type of issue to which you want it to be applicable. So let's say prod incident, and finish. And that's it. So now as you can see, our newly created workflow has been associated to a prod incident issue type, and this is under a test workflow scheme. And if we publish the changes, and let's say we want to associate, and refresh, acknowledge. All right, so we have published the changes successfully. So that's how you can add a custom workflow condition to your existing or newly created workflows. All right, now let's move on to adding group condition for the same workflow that we have designed. Now for that, we can go back to our workflows, and from there select edit option. And here if we go back to the diagram, where for this particular transition we have added one condition. So let's go back to the condition screen. As you can see, we have added this condition where we are saying that a user in this project with a developer role should be able to close it. Other users with other different roles won't be able to close this issue. Now let's add one more condition by clicking on add condition link here. And it shows us the different conditions that we can add to our issue. So let's say we want to add one more condition where we are saying the person should be a reporter, and then only that user will be able to close that issue. So we added one more condition, and if you notice, we have this add group condition icon. So if we click on this icon, it will take us to the same screen where we can add more complex conditions. So let's say we want to add another condition where we are saying the code has to be committed. Then only we can say that issue has been resolved, deployed in production, and then user can close it. So as you can see, it has grouped these conditions into two different groups. In the first group, we have a project role with a developer, and if the code has been committed, then only developer can close this issue. The other condition is the developer has to be reporter of that issue. Then only they can close this issue. So that's how you can add multiple conditions and group them together in your project.